It's exciting if people put an interest in their community and they want to get informed and take a position. So thank you for giving up with me. How many people are like their first one of these town halls? We've had 6 of them. This is the first time for you, if you raise your hand high. So maybe we're almost 40, 60. Okay, that's good. So my name is Jeff Balderman. I'm just further away starting the second year as superintendent of CSD 301. And we are here. We have to take a position. I can't tell anyone how to vote or even if but the district, after listening to a very big cross-section of the community, coming to the decision to put on the number of the idea of seeking funds to build a new elementary school and do other improvements to the facilities in this district. And we are here tonight to talk a little bit about our district, to share a little bit about how we came to that conclusion, and then for the first part, a little bit about possible locations for the new elementary school. And we'll go into that probably more in depth later in the meeting. And the 6 meetings that we've had previously, we had Q&A sessions that lasted in the shorter 50 minutes, a longer, an hour and a half. We raised the questions and answers again. Those the meetings we had this summer, we had an average about 45 minutes to an hour of Q&A. So we will continue that. And we're excited about that, to get open to things that people are thinking about. We may not always agree, it's okay. So community comes to some compromise and consensus and listens to each other, and that's what we're after. We're not expecting that everybody is the same mind, but that we do so in a way that's positive and engaging, that will promote this great community. And that is the thing we're planning on sharing with you. We have so much to be proud of. Regardless of where we stand at the moment on this particular issue, we need to work together as a community and see what C401 is phenomenal. And that's not just a proud superintendent talking. That is mountains high to say that we have one of the best districts in the state of Illinois and truly the country. And I want to share some of that with you. So I have to say, we are at a crossroads. Even some people who are uncomfortable with the idea of the current issue on the ballot would agree that the buildings in this district, especially Manning Elementary School and to a certain extent Miller, are in need of significant. Nobody is really disagreeing with that. If you've been to Manning School, and we have some people here today who work there every day, it is not a building that one could be proud of. It needs extensive repairs. That's not even up for question. Miller, to a certain extent, also needs extensive repairs. So that is why the Board of Education came to the conclusion, after listening to the community. We had a community engagement session. Did we talk to everybody in the community? No, we did not hear from everyone. We heard from a very section of people. And not their consensus, but our administration's consensus, but the consensus of the community that we heard from, which was a very good cross-section, was that investing millions and renovating a 94-year-old building was not the wisest path forward. Rather to build one pre-K or K-5 building within our community. So that's how this became a ballot issue. I can say in my second year as superintendent, I could not be more proud of what we have started to accomplish together. You will see some of this in the next couple of moments, but it is in jeopardy if we have to take our annual budget, which in Illinois is constructed to pay the benefits and salaries of our teachers, do the other things that keep the lights on and minor maintenance. It's not enough to replace and to repair what's needed at this time. And we will have to detract from the amazing service that we have greatly created for our students if we have to start detracting from our annual budget to do extensive repairs, which are not a maybe thing, they are a needed thing. In this district, we have not passed a referendum in its history. Previous boards asked the community in 3 occasions to do some necessary repairs, and at each juncture, the answer was no. So now, after a district has existed for 50 years, we're in the position that we're asking again. We've never secured funds through a referendum. And we're being as clear as possible. If we don't do that, the actions could jeopardize the excellence that we have built together as a community. So we are literally at a crossroads. Everybody has this handout. I hope people have the handout. I just want to speak briefly. There's so many awards and rankings that this district has won in recent years. It's incredible. An A+, the highest rating from Niche. At Manning Elementary, a very good school, the work of the administration and the teachers and the students and the support of parents and the community. When the official results come out on October 31st, so you're getting a preview of this because these results have been released to us by the state, and they will become known statewide for the whole world to see in late October. Manning will be named an exemplary school. And that is through what we did as a community. Principal, Lindsay, Jada, the teachers there, the support staff, the parents, the students, the community, an exemplary school. Amazing work. Our junior high school, which was an above average school. In late October, you will see the results. It will become the most improved school in the state of Illinois and rank in the top 1% in Illinois. Now, if it doesn't take your breath away, I don't know what would. This is the most beautiful picture in the world. It shows what happens when a team comes together and believes in kids and works hard and works smart. This isn't good. This isn't great. This represents, according to the Illinois State Board of Education, not a proud superintendent, not some other ranking organization, but our own Illinois State Board of Education. That's where we rank. If you can take a look at this, top 1% in the state of Illinois. Now, we anticipate that we won't know till all the results are released, but we anticipate that this will be the #1 ranked junior high in the state of Illinois. Last year, the #1 score for any junior high in Illinois was 91.70. Our score is 94.75. Now, somebody else may have improved, but on the safe side, we're going to be in the top 1% according to the Illinois State Board of Education. The high school, since the Illinois State Board of Education started ranking schools in 2018, has the #1 ranking of any high school in the state of Illinois. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. The data is there for anybody who goes there to see. You can go back and look at from 2018, 19, 20, they didn't rank because of COVID, 21, 22, 23, 24. These are results. Cumulatively, the highest ranked school of any high school in Illinois is Westmont High School. That is the product of some incredible work by our entire school community. This platinum rating from the people who do SAT and AP. No school in Illinois has ever been ranked platinum. No high school, no regular high school. There are charter schools, magnet schools, and private schools who have earned their highest ranking, but no traditional regular high school in Illinois has ever earned this ranking. We have a preview. Westmont High School will earn the Platinum Award this year. Maybe somebody else came in the finish line with us, but we will be the first high school, traditional high school, to win the highest award from the College Board, the people who administer the SAT and advanced placement. I've done this slide many times, but for those of you who want to know, this is most important to me. All the awards, all the academic accolades, all the incredible rankings, all of the incredible achievement and the teamwork, it's outstanding. What matters most, I believe, is do our students trust their schools and trust their teachers? And the University of Chicago, one of the top research institutions in the world, came up with something called the 5 Essentials Survey. They asked students very poignant questions like, do you feel respected in your school? Do you trust your teachers? Do you feel safe in your school? The number one ranking for student-teacher trust in the state of Illinois is Westmont High School. This is what we've built together. 99, 99, 99, 99. You can't do any better. There is no 100. This is what the students anonymously, 98% of them, they weren't cherry-picked. 98% of our students anonymously were asked, do you trust your teachers? The highest ranking in the state of Illinois. Not top 1%, number one. Now, if other schools receive the 99 ranking, yes, but no other high school has a 99 across the board. Some people could poo-poo, standardized testing scores or evaluation systems. I understand that. But student-to-teacher trust is the foundation for all this excellence. And I think as a taxpayer, I would want to know, how are the students treated when they come to these schools? And the students have spoken loud and clear. They feel cared for. Are we perfect? No institution is. Are we the best? Absolutely. There's all kinds of other awards I won't waste your time on. They're plentiful. This is a school district that is becoming, if not the premier, one of the premier school districts in the state of Illinois. That's what we have built together. And we're known nationally. I present throughout the nation, and there are thousands and thousands of people who know about CUSD 201. It's pretty incredible, and I'm proud to represent all the work that we've done. This summer, when I was to a conference of several thousand teachers wanting to know, how have you done this? I was walking through the airport and I saw the Chicago magazine, the suburbs, the best places to live. And I said, oh my God, I just hope Westmont's in there. I love this town. I know what we're doing. I hope that they recognize us when they rank these suburbs and they're going to feature. Sure enough, I picked up the magazine and my eyes started tearing up. Because what did they say? Of hundreds of suburbs, only 3 were mentioned as a place where your young family can blossom. What did they say explicitly? A hidden gem for families, largely due to its highly rated schools. You can't buy that. You can't. But this is what they're saying about the district that we have built together. So, excellence is in jeopardy if we have to start taking the budget that was not intended to do the kind of replacements that are needed and take that budget and start paying for some of those replacements. And the truth of it is, our school system academically and performance-wise is at the upper echelon. I would say at the very top, 5%, and that's being more than conservative. But the facilities, especially at Manning and at Miller, that we educate our kids in, are in the bottom 20th percent. It's embarrassing, quite frankly. Furthermore, when we look and visit the schools in our region, compared to those school buildings, we are nowhere near where they are. There have been attempts in the past to rectify this. They have gone unheeded. The board recognized the need, listened to the community, and came up with the idea of not renovating, but building one new elementary school. That's how we organized at this conclusion. At present, there's many examples. If you've been to these buildings, you know what we're talking about. This is what we're hoping for, is a building that we could be proud of, where we can educate our kids. It's the responsibility. We can't do them. To look at the facts and say that this district has not been fiscally responsible. I don't think that is a fair assessment. Here is the evidence. For 20 consecutive years, the Illinois State Board of Education has given CUSD 201, its highest rating for fiscal responsibility. That's not a year or a couple of good years, it's 20 consecutive years. Furthermore, the Business Officials International for the last 7 years has given us their highest rating. When you look at the taxing rates of neighboring communities, we're not at the top, we're not in the middle, or in the lower portion. Now, we're grateful for everything our community does for us. But it's hard to hear people say we're not fiscally responsible when the evidence, becoming superintendent, speaks otherwise. The board and our administration pledged that we're going to have a balanced budget, and we did last year, and we're on track to have a balanced budget this year. Okay? We're proud of that, and we want a balanced budget going forward. But this is not something new. There's talk about deficit spending. There have been years where, for a variety of reasons, the district went into deficit spending. But in aggregate, these are real numbers for people to see. The operating funds over the last decade come to an aggregate balanced budget, actually a slight surplus. Important to review because we're asking the community for a good amount of money. You should not invest in something that has not been well done. Our academics are at the top of their game. Our fiscal responsibility is present based on the data. So were there years of deficit spending? Yes. They were outpaced by years of surplus. In the aggregate, our budgets have been balanced. So when someone says, well, you've engaged in a lot of deficit spending, it's been offset by surpluses. In the aggregate, we have actually had a slight surplus and earned 20 years of consecutive highest rating from ISBE. Some people say, well, why can't you just use the money you have, which is a very fair and generous amount to educate your kids, to take care of these building needs? In the state of Illinois, it's not constructed that way. Your budget is not meant to build a new building. I want you to imagine this. If there was enough money in the annual budget to pay for a new building, you could imagine potential abuse. Because people might say, well, we're not going to build a new building, but put it into programs and salaries, etc. So you have to go to your taxpayers in Illinois when it comes time for replacement or major renovation. This is the way it's done. It doesn't come out of the annual bucket. Some maintenance, yes, which we have. And I think we've maintained these buildings well. But I don't think it takes a lot of thinking to understand that after 94 years, it might be time to replace and not continually upgrade and renovate. The HVAC system alone, which is most necessary at Manning, would cost in the neighborhood of $8 to $9 million just for that one renovation alone. So it's not that we haven't been fiscally responsible as a district. It's time to take the measures. And the measure is to go to the voters to ask for support. Now, people at Mays Lake do not pay taxes. I want to make that clear. But the other point I want to make is we are not first to ask for a referendum. We're not in the middle of the pack. We're at the end of the line. Many other surrounding districts have passed similar referendums asking for new facilities. I think this is important to note. In 2 previous districts where I've worked, we have passed referendums and built or renovated buildings. And it ended up being a very excellent move for the district at those places. But that's the way it's done across the state of Illinois. How are we spending the money? The bulk of it is going to build a new elementary school. How did we come? Because 63 million out of the 74.6 is coming towards the new elementary school. And I think we have Bill from Nicholas, who are construction managers, who can explain how we came to that number. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. My name is Bill Farley. I'm with Nicholas & Associates. We're a construction management firm working with approximately 30 different K-12 districts and the Chicagoland area. So we do a lot of work similar to what you're being asked to support.
When you look at the largest line item, the third of the new elementary school, We look at recently open bids as we provide information to Westmont School District as to how we come up with that number. And the most recent schools that we are building right now are in Joliet. They're building two brand new junior high schools, replacing two existing, so they're ground up new junior high schools. We bid that in August, and the bids came in at just around $500 a square foot. About 300,000 square feet of front and the school building that we're building, so there's some economies in there. There's not playgrounds like you'd seen in elementary, and there are efficiencies building that big. So we will look at the amount of square footage that's being proposed for the Westmont new elementary school. We're using a range of about 650 to 660, somewhere in that range per square foot. So very conservative. So again, comparing it to what the recently opened bids are, we feel we're in a very good range for what a new elementary school may cost based on those recent bids.
Thank you, Bill. Nicholas is well respected in construction game in Illinois for schools, so you can look up their record and their history. The board went through a vetting process and carefully selected our construction managers from many different opportunities. So we'll leave it at that for right now. There is some question. Is 650, as Bill said, we're not building a bare bones school. We're not building a palace either. There's estimates that could go as high as $800-900 a square foot. We're trying to build a quality school, not bare bones, but not too high end either. The rest of the needs are well established. The things we're asking for, and there are needs beyond this. I think it needs to be said. We asked the community for a $90 million referendum. The response we got from Westmont is that was not what they were willing to do. We also said $55 million. We settled with the $70 million to build a new building and do some of the other needed infrastructure repairs. Cannot be handled within that $55 million budget. So we arrived at the 74.6. There are needs beyond those, but we thought these were the most pressing and important needs. We will sell the existing buildings we have to pay for a location in the main. That is, estimates are our three properties are valued at $7.5 million, and that is the range within we're working to purchase a new location site, which we'll talk about. There were three main options here. One is to continue on the path we have for several years. That is a dangerous path. We believed we were not going to be able to continue to have the HVAC systems, lack of ADA compliance, potential habits for our situations for our people. So not doing any was not an option. We need additional funding. If we don't receive it, one of the options is to dig into our annual budget at a significant rate and reduce the services that have established the excellence that we're currently providing. The renovation was an option, and I'm not saying that there weren't people in the community who wanted that option and still do, but that was not the consensus of the community. In this day and age, we all know we're not going to get 100% consensus on almost anything in our world. So do we ask everybody? No. Do we ask an excellent cross-section from an expert in this work whose feedback said this is a good cross-section of what your community thinks? And the majority of the community said it makes more sense to build new than to spend on a significant amount of money, approximately $40 million, to renovate. That's what led us to proposing building a new school and asking the voters to support that. When we are doing our decision making, we are looking for the best investment for everybody, including the taxpayers of CUSD 201. We take what you give us very seriously. We want excellence for our students, but also for our community. When we're looking at locations, now I guess many of you came tonight because we are presenting some new information about that. We want to avoid kicking people out of their homes in our district. School districts have the right to use eminent domain, which means that you can ask for people's property at fair market value and take over that property to build a new school. We heard from our community, they don't want that, you don't want that, frankly, we don't want that. That puts us in a position, it limits the number of locations, but we are trying to avoid eminent domain as much as is possible. We also want to avoid displacement of students and disruption of education. If we are renovating a current site, both of those things would happen, especially disruption of education. But as we'll go into in a minute, if we built on one of our current sites, we would have to move students out of that school to different schools, displace them. There's a ripple effect to that we think is not profitable, that we're trying to avoid. And I really am sincerely, and I know the board is too, we have a small geographic area in our district. We have looked at every corner of this district. There isn't a 10 to 12 acre green spot of land that we've missed. There isn't some place that we say, oh, we could build the school there. It would require something more creative. But there isn't a lot of opportunities to build a new building in this district. So, and the thing we'll say too is, if we wait, the costs are going to increase. That's the position we put ourselves in now. So the risk of delay is to keep on being subject to inflation costs. That is what we're looking for. So we've announced previously that while we're in negotiations, we are trying to act in the best interest of the district by not revealing all the details of the negotiations, including possible sites. With that being said, we've progressed in negotiations, so what's different today? When we look at location sites, we've progressed in the negotiations to the point where we feel comfortable to share it with the community. And quite frankly, are we the most comfortable sharing this? No. But what we try to do as a Board of Education and our administration is to respond to the community. Because I think it's a reasonable question. What will the location be? And we didn't withhold some secrecy, but in trying to protect the interests of the taxpayers. On the other hand, we're trying to be responsive. When people ask that question, we're listening. So, here are the location considerations. Initially, we considered Miller Elementary. It's centrally located. We own the property. The original plan was, okay, we allocate the learners at Miller and disperse them to South School and to Manning. And then we could take the first graders and put them to Manning, and then take the fifth graders at Manning and put them to the junior high, and the eighth graders at the junior high and put them in the high school for 1 or 2 years. That did not seem, that kind of displacement and disruption is not something that's very palatable to us. There's the eminent domain situation. The footprint of Miller will not allow for an adequate pre-K through 5 building. It would have to house approximately 600 more students, and we would need additional space for that to happen. That would require us to kick people out of their houses. The board is trying to do everything they can to not allow that to happen. There are some concerns about increasing the building from 200 to 600 and what that would do for traffic concerns. So there are a lot of reasons against Miller. It is district-owned property on the pot, so we have that going for us. But these are the reasons that got us to think, is there a better site? So that was the original plan. So we scoured the geographic boundaries of our district, looking for any place that might be a viable solution. Well, guess what? This community is completely developed. There is not much at all of any open green space. If there was, we would gladly gravitate towards it and build a new building there. So let me just follow through in this logic. The community consensus opinion was build new, don't renovate. Okay, then we're going to build a new building. Where are we going to build it? Can we build it at Miller? There are a lot of downfalls to that. Manning, we'd have to move 400 students for several years. It's not an easy, and it's pretty much an implausible option. So it led us to looking for other locations. which are extremely limited, almost not existent. If you have a great location in the boundaries of CUSD 201, please feel free to come forward and share that with us. I'm being sincere about that. We don't have the kind of ego would say, oh, we didn't think of that. To the contrary, we don't think it exists. So this is what we came to. At the location of Cass in Naperville, which is the heart of one of the greatest pizza districts in the city of Chicago, right? With all this great, I'm not going to name them all right now, but they're just surrounded by all these great pizzerias and everything. The Cass in Naperville location, there's property there. So one potential benefit is that it's centrally located in the district. The majority of the land is for sale currently. And so that makes it easier to negotiate a deal. There would be no displacement of students, no disruption to their education. We could educate our kids at Miller and Manning and South, and then build a building and then have them occupy. So those are the reasons why the board and administrative team says that that is potentially a better location than the Miller site. There are some potential traffic concerns, but we would work with the village and traffic consultants and our architects and construction managers to come up with the most viable option to try to offset those potential traffic concerns. So that's the Cass and Naperville option. It's a location. The second area that we've looked at is on Blackhawk, north of Ogden. And there's a stretch there where there's some possibilities. One of the things, a consideration, some people consider this not a positive. Frankly, we think it is a positive, but it's in close proximity to our other buildings, allowing for some real articulation, transportation savings, communication, and sharing of resources amongst the schools in the district. So that is considered in the aggregate a positive. At that location, there would be no displacement of students, no disruption of services, and no eminent domain would be exercised. So that's why we explored the region for a potential location. The downside is it's still in process. We have not completed a deal or negotiations. It's an option in the spirit, and I know this to be true, of this board and of myself and our admin team. We want to be as transparent as possible. So we're saying that this is an exploration. We don't want to surprise people. The other thing that we have committed to is establishing a community committee to help with the final decision and location. So if a decision had been made, I promise you, as somebody who loves this district and has worked here for 13 years and wants to work here for a few more years, and make this the best district in the state of Illinois, that I would tell you what that location was. So these are the location considerations. We can't be more transparent than that, quite frankly. So, value for our community. Selling Manning, that's beneficial to our community too, in the sense that that property could be developed and continue to revitalize our downtown area, which would be beneficial to taxpayers in the community at large. We anticipate an increase in home values, an increase in some families moving to Westmont and modernize the community. So it's not just about what's best for the district, it's best for the community. Our promises, what we have asked for will not require, because some people say, well, are you going to need major improvements at the junior high and the high school and come back in a few years from now? Within our budget and within this referendum, we will be able to make the necessary improvements at the junior high and the high school. New boilers, we just got a new HVAC system already purchased and paid for at the junior high, new roofs that are desperately needed, new parking lots, renovation of the science labs, that we should be in a position for decades to come to not ask for a major referendum to build new buildings. And with the relief that we will see from the funding for the facilities, we will have an annual budget that will be able to pay for excellence in education and services. We pledge continued balanced budgets and fiscal responsibility. Quick summary. No matter where you stand, I hope that people know that what we have built together is academic excellence, and we're not done. We want to continue. We're at a crossroads. We can continue on that trajectory or take a step backwards. We want a high-quality solution and no more Band-Aids. We're not the first or the middle. We're one of the last districts to pass a referendum if it doesn't cover. We have been fiscally responsible. The evidence is clear and open for all to see, and we've been as upfront about location efforts as possible. This is what we're facing, a limited number of choices, and these are the locations that we are sharing. It's time for Q&A. Thank you for listening. We open the mic. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Balderman. As you know, I came to all the early committee meetings, and I raised a point in the first meeting that was never really answered. You know, this is a wonderful high school. It's very spacious. It's great. You know, there's a great amount of space in here. My issue is that there are 400 students here, and it was built for 1,000 students. If you look across the district, according to your official numbers, we have capacity for 2,755 students, and we only have an enrollment of 1,325 students. I mean, look at the district website. These are your numbers. And walk around this school and tell me that it can't fit an awful lot more people. I've never been sold that we need, on the idea that we need a new school. I think that we can reorganize, we can reduce our capacity, lose manning. I've got no argument about that. And we can reorganize and we can modernize and we can fit the children we have with plenty of space. If we lose manning, we still have capacity for over 2,100 students. And as you have said, and I agree with you, I think our student enrollment is going to be fairly static, you know, up or down 10% over the foreseeable future. So that's all I really want to say. You've never sold me on everyone wants a shiny new school. I do as well. You know, the way that it's been framed from the start is we can't afford not to do this, and how much are you prepared to spend? Well, I live in Liberty Park. You know, we all want a new school there. We all want what's best for our kids and our friends and neighbours, and they get their bank account before they go to Jewel. You know, we'd all like to say we have this money and it's easy. And I know for some people in this room, an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a year is just chump change. But there's a sizable amount in the community that simply cannot afford this. And you've spent $45,000 on an equity report in the last few years. And I'd like to ask you, how is it equitable to raise money in this way when you'll be driving out the poorest people in the community?
Thank you. There's a lot of things that you've said, and I want to focus on a few key ones. This school, in my knowledge, was not built for 1,000 students. Could we house a few hundred extra students? Yes. Could this school house 700 students? That's within a range of possibilities. With class sizes that people experienced in the 70s, as an example, when the school was built. But one of the reasons we've been able to attain this excellence is we have good student-to-teacher ratios. So could we move additional students into this building? That would be an option. There's some questions about whether that would have been the best move to have, let's say, 12-year-olds and then on a daily basis with 18-year-olds. That is one of the considerations as to why. So physically, could you put another couple hundred students in this building and educate them? That is true. But it's not an enrollment issue that way. So there are other considerations besides, could you do it? Would it be the most prudent thing to do from an educational standpoint? So the number is not incorrect, and the capacity is not the question. And could we fit more students in this school? You're right, we could. At what cost is the question? And I guess that's something we have to consider. So, and the other thing I will say is, so to that point, it's not an enrollment issue, but putting sixth graders with 18-year-olds is probably not the best time. Yeah.
6th, 7th, 8th, freshman, sophomore, all together at the junior high. So we cleaned up.
So from the square footage and on the website, oh yeah, sorry, Leah Conover, Vice President of the School Board. The numbers from the website were from a during COVID situation when we were trying to solve exactly where we can fit children, students in every single square foot of our buildings, which did include large spaces like our gyms, which also kind of artificially lifted those numbers up. So could we get more students into our classrooms? Absolutely. We into all of our schools, right? Absolutely. We could raise our class sizes up and get more kids in. But the 2,700 is not really an accurate number because it does include some of those big spaces, and every square footage for students and for learning, this from our architects, is not foot for foot with our students. So we've got classroom space, we've got hallways, we've got a lot of space in our buildings that could be utilized, but might not be utilized best for education of our students. So that is where some of those very large 2,700 student capacity numbers come from.
So hopefully that question has been addressed. And as people have mentioned, is it an answer? Yes, we could put a few more hundred students in this building. At what cost is the other question. So that is a question and answer, I believe. Well, citizens, this would be a real burden to. I don't have an answer that's satisfactory to that. We estimated that the average taxpayer would have to pay about $700 a year in excess. That's the average. Some will pay less, some will pay more. In being transparent, we put a tax calculator on the website so everybody could see the impact. For some people, that impact will be difficult. I can't say that that's not true. So, first of all, to those individuals bearing that burden, and I am very grateful to the taxpayers of this district. And it's one of the things that's driven us to excellence is that we look each other in the eye and say, this community supports us with their hard-earned money. What they deserve is an excellent school system. And we believe we've done everything we can to validate the investment of taxpayers. I can tell you, I pay taxes too, and more than what the average person in Westmont pays for a school system that's nowhere near as good as this one. So I can't deny what you're saying about the burden that some people will experience. That would not be honest. The other part of the equation is we want to invest in a quality building, not an excessive building, but in a building that will last for 50 years. Instead of talking about being responsible to taxpayers, putting their hard-earned money into Band-Aids on a building that we believe is at replacement stage. Thank you.
No, it's okay. It's got
Okay.
green light, I think. Let's try. Test. Okay, there you go. My name is Dan Charleston. And Jack, again, thank you for your presentation. I've been a resident of Westmont and District 201 for 30 years. We sent our children to schools here in town and to 201 schools. When we started, obviously Manning was a shiny new 65-year-old building. So we have been here for a long time and understand the nature of the beast. I also understand there are a bunch of hard yeses in this room. There are also a bunch of soft yeses and soft no's, and there are several, maybe many, hard no's here. And I don't think that anybody would argue that if you put a young child in a brand new school building with the kind of teachers and academic experience that 201 has created, I don't think that anybody would argue that those kids wouldn't get a better education than they're getting today in the two physical structures known as Manning and Miller. I don't think there's any argument there. I think it's entirely a conversation about economics, and community. And so for me, the first thing I'll say is part of the reason I am a hard yes is because I have a 2-year-old grandchild and a very good chance that he's going to go to 201 schools. And if I have a choice, I'm going to send him to a shiny new school building. I do not want to send him to Manning or to Miller. He deserves better than that. So that's the personal level. At the economic level, one of the things that Jack handed out in the handout for the Chicago Magazine thing, there are four communities that were listed, and it noted the thing that Jack noted about the article, the house appreciation over the last 5 years. Westmount was 22%. The remainder were 41 and 43% over the last 5 years. Quick math, that means if you start with a $400,000 house 5 years ago, you're at 560, and any one of those other three in Westmont, you're at 480. You have given up $80,000 of value compared to everybody else. And those towns, by the way, New Lenox, Oswego, they are far away. I mean, Jeff knows how far New Lenox is. His brother lives down there, and he probably only sees him once a year. But we have given up value relative to other communities, and those communities build new schools. It's not that those communities have better academic performance. It's not that they have better access to a train station that has express trains, when they get there. That has trains that go into the city. It's not that you're not surrounded by amenities in your own community and other communities. So it's something else. Something else is holding back your value. So when a young family drives around and looks at these buildings, they're prepared to live in DuPage. They're prepared to live in DuPage. And they see our buildings. So, the question is, how much value are you prepared to leave on the table on your house? Because it is my opinion that the day that this new building comes online, house values go up 10% in this town. 10%. No, it doesn't, actually, because we're a tax cap district. And all of DuPage is actually a tax cap district. And what that means, simply put, is if everybody goes up 10%, the school can only levy up to inflation or 5%, whichever is lower. So if the school's levy is $10,000 on a home, and let's say CPI is 2.5%, it goes to $10,250. Whether your house is worth $500,000 or $600,000, provided everybody else's house in town goes about the same direction, which is the argument to be made. So for $1,000 a year, for me, $1,000 a year pick a number, $30,000 to $70,000. So $1,000 a year for 30 years, and I can have that value today. Lastly, the benefit to the community, and Jack, remind me, is Manning in a TIF? Okay. TIF, the TIF, and Manning doesn't pay real estate taxes, is that right? So the value to the community isn't just that we get a new school building. It is that we get a new tax-paying development in the middle of town, which also benefits taxpayers. The one thing that Jack put up on the screen that I also want to focus on and mention is that $700,000 a year in savings, in operational savings. That's real. That's going to create a lot of space in the way the district budgets. In the end, for me, I'm a hard yes because it results in money in my pocket in the value of my home. And it results as well in an actually high quality space experience for my grandson. And I believe it results in an incredible experience in terms of value creation for the community. And with that, thank you.
By the way, I live in town. Dan, we started this exact conversation at the coffee shop. So he's a hard yes. I'm not saying I'm a hard no. But he had asked me, how would I do it? And I understand the think maybe from social media posts, things like that. It's just on location, but it's so much more than location. And the real reality here is these are beautiful towns. I think everybody here can see old buildings and look at them and say, that's great. We want a shiny new building. However, how did we get here? There's years of referendums that have been tried. There's also things called budget and maintenance. There's actually buildings way older than mine, and I know that Central School, that were in a little bit of shape. Have we not done our due diligence over the years to maintain that building so that we're not upside down in it, to where you're in that broken cloud and finally you're going to tell you and it's time to get on a new one and no one time? The way we presented, and I think, truly, I don't think this is the path on the 5th. I do want to ask you, Jack, what is people thinking if it doesn't? Someone who debate and a single debate.
The president of the school board. Some of that also there's no guarantee. It will be considered, it has been discussed by the community, since that option is there to return in April. That will be the next election, next election that this can be considered. And that will be considered. I cannot tell you that the board has voted for it. The board has not. That's your answer.
Okay, so I understand that. So, a lot of this answering back and forth between no people and yes people, one of the things that I'd like to point out is that Jack talks about it, so we might as well talk about it from this side. That's that key word that he talks about first. Very hard to trust people when you don't really know what they're doing. And you understand from the forward, it's a previous meeting, so this is not the first meeting to do that. So you talk about trust between students, you talk about trust with everyone, at least you talk about trust between a board or administration and taxpayers. And really, the way it's saying it's played out, it looks like you guys didn't even really want to do it. Your properties are weird, it's like there's a surface, and so we can talk about the other things we know that this property can't discuss it and owners can't discuss it, but the real property in question here on Blackhawk really is right on Blackhawk Drive between the storage place which is on the village. Seems to me like we kind of put a puzzle together here. And we hope to donate that land. We're hoping that we're going to get a really good price. Negotiations, because one of the things is we don't want to drive up the price once we have it. Because it's not in the budget of the referendum. And then we're going to set it the first time. They said, does this include the cost of the land? He said no. We asked if the golf course was it. He said, no, it's too expensive. We looked at other places. We know we have to build within that. But one of the things when we talk about trust is who does this cost? This costs everybody that resides in this town, not just a taxpayer. And yes, it does affect those people. And when you pay taxes, if they pay fees for them, that property is taxed.
And so I want to address part of your part of the things you brought up, but is Ed Sullivan here? I didn't see it. Okay. I'm going to give you time to come up to speak on the trust and how we evaluated that for our board, because we talk about it. We're not playing around about it. We asked about it, about our community and trust towards the board. And I just want to give you time to speak on that. But just going back on the puzzle, it is a puzzle that the board has to address. Do you buy land and bank on your community giving you the funds and approving funds for building a new building? Is that responsible? You know, then you put money into negotiating. Well, again, you don't have permission from your community to move forward. And you have to weigh both those things, and there are pros and cons to that and ways that you do it. Part of our first question was to even see if our community wanted to move forward. We knew that there is an issue with our schools. There's mounds of things that needed to be done because we researched that. What needs to be done? What's needed in our school district to keep going? We've answered the question for our academics and still answering that and succeeding. But what needed to be done? And years of work. How do you get that done? And one of the questions we asked, how does our community want us to go ahead with that? And that's why you ask that question before we start pouring money into sites and putting that there. So we can get back to that, but I do want you to kind of address the trust part.
But that community that Jack talked about in the beginning of what the people said, 40 million to do this, 90 million to do that. The committees that you had together, then, there's thousands of people in this thing.
Well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ed Sullivan. I own the company called E.O. Sullivan Consulting. One of the things that I do within my company is I help bring communities together. And so I was brought to Westmont D201 in January of this year to discuss what they consider their future. In February, my company was hired to do community engagement. So what does that mean? How do we build the trust? Well, what I heard from Jack and the administration and the board was we want transparency. We want to go out to the community. We obviously have an engineer here that has explained to them. We have reports from the State Board of Elections that say, what do we have to do in the next 10 years? And that's a large amount of money. And so the question was, how do we go to the public and ask the public what they think about various ideas? And so we started with a menu of options and threw out, here are some problems within the district, here's some solutions, here's some cost estimates, and here's some plans. And so going and having a community committee of engaged individuals that would hear kind of the debate with the administration on the pros and cons of different things, that was one area that we got information. We went to the actual community and said, okay, you're invited, you can come here, advertised, mailers, and social media to allow people to come hear a presentation. I believe there were 6 of them that were done over the summer months. And then there was a vote. There was a vote after a survey of the community once again. So over 1,000 residents were able to say, here's how we feel. And so the board deliberated. They didn't go to the level. And they chose to put a ballot question out there to the public for you to decide the future of your community. Not for them, for you. And so that's the trust. That's the trust that they said, we want to hear from our community and move forward from there. And then you'll make the decision. They won't. And so hopefully that helps.
Was that the vision survey or?
There was a community committee that took a survey. There was the community that came to these events that took the survey. There was people that went online that took the survey. And then there was the phone survey.
Yeah.
So multiple ways of collecting data points.
So we're at this point now where we're disclosing possible locations, and obviously I understand and I'm in complete agreement on the ones with eminent domain. I don't think we want to put anybody on the street. I don't think any taxpayer here wants to put their name on the street.
So put yourselves in our shoes, Steve.
And I get that.
We heard it wasn't a unanimous. We didn't hear from everybody, but a very reasonable consensus for the community is not everybody build a new building, don't put tens of millions of dollars. That wasn't everybody agreed unanimously, but that was that. Okay. So now, where do you build a new building? We considered doing the Manning job. We got strong feedback. Don't kick people out of their houses. Okay? Where do you go in a landlocked community? until we start doing our due diligence, looking for other alternatives. And as you pointed out, maybe entering into negotiations with people. And we want to be able to be in a position of leverage when we're negotiating on behalf, of our taxpayers.
I think one of the things that
secrets here.
you need to look at, though, Jack, is that you're asking for a committee today, which is great. I'm all for that. I think there's a lot of yes people and a lot of no people that would want to be on that committee, or maybe people. But I think it's something that you as administration and any board members that may be here, it's not something that gets abolished if this passes November 5th. It has to either be decided on a location so you could start negotiating on properties that you haven't even probably begun yet, because it sounds like
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
we've had talk. You've had some talk.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
I'll
wait,
say-
wait,
no,
wait.
we're not going to wait much more, Steve. Make
No,
your
you
point
get to
on
have
that, please.
debates, so that's
Yeah.
what a town hall is.
It's not.
How much did you pay to have a school come here for homecoming to play football? $5,000?
Steve,
People's money.
okay, so all I would say is this. When it comes to location, we are doing our due diligence to find what would be best for our taxpayers and our school district.
And if
We
it
have-
was to be put on, say, Cass and Naperville, it needs to have an actual look that goes with the community to maybe look like Village Hall or look like the Chamber Building
You can't,
and not another UFO.
You can't do that ahead of time, though. Standard practice is you don't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for detailed architectural
You guys
plans
got a
before
half-baked
you
plan
have-
here.
No,
It's not even
half-baked.
complete. You're asking for $75 million
Thank you for your comments. There are other people who are waiting to speak.
You're asking for $75 million and you don't have full details.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Bauerlein. Oh, sorry. I am a teacher here at Manning Elementary. I also serve as our Teachers Union Vice President. I've served as president in past years. And I also, while I'm not a voter in this community, am a voter in another community nearby that is very similar to Westmont and has encountered some of these same things. And so I feel like I offer some unique perspectives that I can bring to the table that I felt really important to share with the community this evening. I know you haven't had the opportunity to hear much from our staff. I know there's some specific rules and regulations around that. And because teachers are nothing but rule followers, I want to make sure I add a little question in there. I want to be able to, my question for the community is, what questions can the teachers help answer? And I hope that I can do that. But again, I have some unique perspectives. I've worked in this district for 17 years, all of them at Manning Elementary. So I've really watched Manning span from, again, I know someone mentioned a 65-year-old building to now a 100-year-old building. Again, I serve as the Teachers Union Vice President, and not only do I advocate for teachers, but in turn advocate for students. Our working conditions are their learning conditions. And so it's very important to our staff for you to understand what's going on. And I think at this point, I just want to be very matter of fact with the community that despite Anthony and Joe and Jack's very best efforts to maintain and fix problems that are going on, we are at a point where we are meeting the bare minimum for survival. We have a building that's running because they're keeping it going. I can't speak to what has happened in the past or why it is or isn't that way, but I know you've all heard we have HVAC issues. We have rooms at Manning that are either 95 degrees plus or air conditioned. We have rooms that have no heat or they have heat. Those HVAC issues are leading to electrical issues. In order to try to fix and provide our students with the basic need of heat so that they can be in a classroom and learn, of course, they're trying to problem solve issues and heaters have been brought in. But as soon as you plug that heater in, the electric in that building is not able to hold that. And so you can either have the lights on and your clever board on, or you can have heat. Those are the choices that we're facing. I don't know if some people are aware of this, but because of a leak and issues that we've had, we had the ceiling in a room completely cave in. While there's not a hole to the ceiling above, the ceiling tiles fell in because of issues that are with the building. We have a room that cannot be used. People had to be displaced. Things had to be moved. We are lucky that there were not students in that building, in that room at that time. In addition to that, we have one male bathroom, and I don't mean a bathroom that has 3 stalls in it. I mean a singular male bathroom for at least 8 male staff members to use that is located on the top floor in the corner of our room. We only have a lift that makes our building ADA compliant, and guess what? It often does not work. And when we do have to use it, and there's an emergency, that entire stairwell is not able to be used. This year, we had 2 teachers and a student on a scooter because of medical reasons. They were unable to get to the top floor, or they have to scoot up on their bottom to get to the top floor because we don't have a building that can give them what they need. I don't need to talk about the water and the carpets that haven't been replaced in 100 years. We have had, because again, Anthony, Jack, and Joe have done a lot to make sure that our buildings are safe for our kids to come to each day. Again, meeting the bare minimum. They have done air quality tests, and do we meet the requirements? Yes. But the report also states that anyone who has any sort of allergy that is sensitive to any sort of allergen is going to have problems. It is a joke that we have the Manning drip. People who come into our building as visitors, who are giving PD, who are well-known in the education community, come into our building and go, man, I don't understand what it is. My nose is running. My eyes are itching. We have kids who are constantly sick. We have staff who is constantly sick. Further, the physical structure of the building is not on par with what the instructional needs that we have. We don't have rooms to pull out and provide students with the small group instruction that they need. It's just not there. Our room size is not equitable. So these are things that are going on at Manning that, of course, we're making the best. Obviously, our results are showing you that, but there are some very serious things that are going on. So I'll go back to the question because I know this is a question and answer. If there are questions that as a teacher, my question to the community is, as a teacher, what do you need to hear from us? What questions do you have? Because we are living it each day and we're happy to answer that. We understand as we would do with our students, we support you in whatever decision you make. We're here to help you, and we want to know what we can do to help with that. Thank you.
My name is Pam Smith. I have been a resident of Westmont since 1974. My family moved here in 1974. I went to Central School. Now it's Manning. I went through the junior high. High school, I'm a graduate. My daughter went through Manning, junior high and high school. And just seeing the excitement that both my daughter and I had coming to the junior high and high school, be it the technology, just a nice environment. And I'm thinking, just like when you go to school, you want an environment that's comfortable for learning, like your home. And so I understand with Manning and Miller, they're older schools, there is need for improvement. And just thinking from the children's perspective, what kind of environment is that for them to learn? And so be it too, if you combine Miller and things with South and Manning, all the kids would be together. That would be a little less stress having all the kids together in one school versus having Miller and South and Manning then go to the junior high starting all over. So I think it's a good idea to have a new school for the kids, have them something to look forward to. Even from the high school here, they have windows now. They have we had open classrooms. You could hear the other kids in the other classrooms. So they're making improvements for the learning environment of the kids. So I'm trying to just mention that. I think looking from, yes, I understand it's a cost, but just think how the kids would come home if it's a better learning environment, if they're crabby, if it's hot, if there's only one bathroom. Again, it's just thinking how they come home and they're excited to learn. And as a parent, I hope that we can support them with the new school. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gina Prawley, was a resident since 2001. Both my girls went through the school district and they had an excellent time here. A couple of questions. I actually do have questions. One, I know you want and I understand there are a lot of issues with the buildings. So with some of the repairs in your budget, line item budgets, do you have like the invoices for those? So, because some of them seem a little extreme for like the purchase of the new windows and stuff. Like, do you have like bids out for those? That's one question. You know, like if you have them, that's great. If you like, I don't like, are you going to the lowest bidder? Or do you have to use a union contractor, specific contractors? Two. Oh, okay.
So, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
this is a budget, so it's our best estimate based on our consultation with the architects and the building construction firm. We don't go out to bid prior to having the funds approved, but we will have to build. Yes, we will have to bid, absolutely. And get the lowest bidder, that's our hope, to save, to get the best deal possible. Yes, to answer the question.
And then another question I had was, I know this is a big sacrifice for some residents. So I'm just wondering though, has the school looked at their budget and like their administrative staff and downsizing? Because I believe here, there's like 400 kids. I think we have a principal and a VP. I mean, like, do we need all these top line administrators? Just, or like the teachers get a raise every year. Like I haven't gotten a raise in 2 years because of the economy. I know the last salary.
This is what we're attempting to do to your budget question, which I would like to answer, please. What we're trying to provide is both things: outstanding educational experience and a balanced budget. Those are things we're accomplishing currently, and we will continually do those things. Do we look at where we don't have to spend? Yes. The bottom line is this: please, you're not necessarily consistently responsible, and we've achieved academic excellence. So to answer your question, do we look at our budget? Yes, we do.
Okay. And then I have another.
Well, quickly, sorry. To speak to that directly, right? Do we look at how many staff? I just want to, I want to be really clear on the math here, because we have $30 million of repairs that are necessary at Manning, one school. Our entire budget is about $35 million for a year. And our staff and our administrators call their average salary around $100,000. So even cutting 10 staff members is only $1 million a year. It would take us 30 years of those cuts, which would affect pretty deeply our kids' experience, but it would take 10 years or more, 30 years, right, to get that amount of cash. So, and that is, I say that because that speaks to how the budgets, the school budgets in Illinois are set up. They are not set up in a way that allows most school districts, the vast majority of school districts, to save that large amount of money year over year. And if they were to, there are very real costs to that, and the amount of time is not tenable. So I do want to speak to that because it is a really great point. Have we looked at those pieces? Can we cut?
The teacher asked, what can they do? You know, I mean, so I'm just asking what the district is going to sacrifice. And also,
the answer is yes.
I know you guys have been talking to the village, but I believe next year, maybe the fire department might be going full time. I don't know. So that's going to raise our taxes as well. So I just didn't know.
We can't speak to any other public institutions. There's nothing about the fire department on this year's November ballot that I have seen, and obviously the April ballots are not out, and I don't know. And we can't speak to if that is a ballot measure or if that is something that the fire department is doing within their budget. Okay. So we just can't speak to it.
Okay, thanks. And then one more question, and I get confused with the tax rate. And I know you showed us schools districts in the area, but all these school districts are much larger than ours. So I don't know if that's a difference, like, or does it make a difference if you looked at school districts in Illinois that have about the same amount of students if our tax rates are about the same? Because
So, yeah. So to speak to the tax rate piece of it, we're super special. we're very, very special because we are one of only 6 unit districts in all of DuPage County. And a unit district being a district that is pre-K to 12, the entirety of a student's public education. We are surrounded by districts that are not unit districts. We are surrounded by pre-K to 8 districts and then also our high school districts. And I would like to point out that most of those districts are larger, and especially the high school districts are significantly larger than us. So there's the economies of scale piece of that. But then there also is the piece that you can't compare the tax rate of a unit district to the tax rate, apples to apples, of a K through 8 and high school district. It's just not comparable because we're servicing students from pre-K to 12, and the needs at those levels vary, very greatly. And when you have a high school district that's able to service the students for 4 years of their life and do a really, really, really amazing job of it, and they're able to focus in on that, and they get even more economies of scale. We don't have those same ones. So that is the piece of our tax district and our taxing rate. And even considering that, we're very comparable to our neighboring districts, even when you do add those items up. It is very confusing, and it took me quite a long time and many questions to Anthony and our business office to solve that. And they're also always there to answer those questions, which is really helpful. So I hope that has answered some of those questions.
Hi, Jack. I hope my question's a lot shorter than everybody else's. I got my mail-in ballot, I don't know, a week or so ago, and the question is on the money primarily is going to be used to acquire land. And then you're saying the bill is going to be used, or the bills are going to be used to offset purchase. It's going to happen for that money. You're asking it, it's part of the overall amount. And then we're getting money in. So where's that money going to go? In one set. Renegotiations. I mean, if there's an opportunity that might be slightly in excess
Of that 7.5, we might have to take some of this money and put it towards that.
or perhaps there might be a land deal that
Would be less than the 7.5. So this was our best estimated budget. But these numbers are our best estimates at what it will cost to do all of this work. So we don't expect, so we're looking at land and locations that we can afford within that 7.5 range. If there was an incredible deal that cost an extra few $100,000, you wouldn't want to do that. If we actually secure a property that was less than the 7.5, we would take some of those proceeds perhaps and put it back into other needed expenditures in the district.
which, for example, what kind of?
Science labs at this high school, even though it's one of the top achieving high schools in the nation, science labs are the worst science labs in this region. That's one place we could put some money. It's not completely, the science lab updates will do some science lab updates, everything we need. So I just want a little bit of help with
in that. So the overall amount that's being asked for is $74 million.
Yes.
Included in that is land acquisition costs. So we use part of that 74 million to acquire the land.
We get $7.5 million back. And
You're saying that it's going to be used to offset that, but we've already used that money to acquire the land. So are you saying that it's actually 74 million plus the 7 million for the sale of the land?
The cost, these are the costs of building the building, doing the infrastructure, all the repairs that we have listed here. And within the budget, what we can also do is, if we sell the properties that we have, which we're intending on doing, and not planning on holding on to those, and this is a question we have from the community, so we would take those assets, take that revenue, and apply it towards land purchase.
But that's not what the ballot question says. The
There-
ballot question says that some of that money is going to be used, some of the 74 million is going to be used to acquire land.
So let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, that the sale of our 3 buildings comes to 7.5 million.
And we find an extraordinary property deal to start at 8.5. We have to give ourselves the latitude to be able to afford doing that. If we don't mention it on the ballot,
There's no opportunity there.
But what if you acquire land for 5 million?
Then we sell our properties and we put it back into the district's expenditure, district's surplus.
Is that going to go into operating, or is that going to, or where's that going to go?
Yes. If the sale comes in lower 5 million, then it doesn't change this. We don't have to take away, we're going to do what we're supposed to do there. That land acquisition money or the sale of it is available to discuss what we're going to do with it. The referendum, the clause is still there. So,
So the land acquisition money is additional money above the $74 million that's going to be authorized if we vote on that. So it's really an $81+ million referendum. If you're getting
No.
seven,
because you're not being taxed on that. You're being taxed on 74.6, not 80.
but if you're getting $7.5 million for the land, you're really getting a total of 81 million and not 70.
You're correct to say that what we're proposing includes the 74.6 plus the sale of property. But it's not a referendum for that. It's property we already own as a district that we would use to offset the land costs. So as Dr. Hoover said, there's no additional taxation there. And if we were able to secure an excellent property, which, by the way, if you've looked at property sites in our district boundaries, it's not inexpensive. So if we were to able to secure an excellent location for our new school at less than that 7.5, the most honest answer is we would probably do it to other projects that are needed within the district. But there would be no additional taxing of the taxpayers.
But
$74 million up there, and none of it is land. At best, what would happen is you get proceeds from the sale of the buildings, and you use those proceeds to purchase land. So it's an auction.
but the
we are restricted from using any of this money.
So here's the other thing. We put together a budget, or Nicholas, who's experts in architecture, who are also experts in school construction, put together a budget. As you know with budgets, they're not exact, but it's our best estimate at this time. Is there a little latitude built in there? There would have to be, because let's say that we're in the middle of the project and we come up short, we can't say, oh, by the way, taxpayers, we need another $1 million. So the idea is, if we built a little bit of contingency in there, which is what you would do for a building construction project. And so there's the best answer I can give you. It's not additional taxes. We would use it to secure the land. We had to put it on the ballot initiative to give us a little bit of latitude if needed. My personal hope is that we secure land at the same price as the 3 properties that we have, and then we use all the money as we've allocated. But we would be handcuffing ourselves and hurting the district if we didn't include that as part of an option. And we may only spend a very small amount of that. That's what our hope is.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
The board members, thank you for all the information you provided. I think it's really great. I'm sorry that this is probably the first one that I've come to, so bear with me if I ask some questions that I've gone over before. Also, thank you for those facility managers, facility engineers who have kept the schools running. I'm professional engineer by trade. I design HVAC systems for a living for the past 15 years, and I've designed projects in Westmont, across the United States and globe. And I can tell that they are really miracle workers. Looking at some of those pictures, because I've seen many of those and done work on many of those as well. Couple questions. One, I see that you guys have a construction manager, Nicholas Associates, on board. You've also made mention to architects. Is this a design, bid, build, or are you looking to design, build this project?
We have Rob from Lego. He's in a better position to answer that question.
I don't know. Yeah,
So there's two main methods for construction. There's design, bid, build, and there's design, build. Design, bid, build is you retain an architect, sometimes a contractor on board to do estimation, and then you bid it out to contractors, and then the person that's awarded gets awarded the project. A design, bid, build is you bring on a contractor and an architect, sometimes an engineer, all together, and they do it for one set price all the way through some,
I want to introduce also Bill again from Nicholas. So we have an architect, Rob from Lego, and Bill from Nicholas, who might be in a better position to answer that question.
Well, I'm Rob from Leggett Architects. You did a great job of describing both process. It's definitely a design, bid, build process. So we would design the building. There would be a public bidding process in which every contractor in the area or wherever could have the opportunity to bid on the project. The bids would be evaluated and then awarded. So there would be multiple trade contracts. On a project like this, there could be as many as 22 or 24 different trade packages or contractors working on the project simultaneously. And again, it would be a very public bidding process.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would just a follow up on we are a construction management firm, so generally, as Rob mentioned, they are bid publicly. I know there was a question about union. School districts are only required to be paying prevailing wage, but the majority of the contractors that bid our work are union. We also work with local communities. We did in Joliet, going back to that. Well, we try to attract local contractors. So we have people that live in the communities that can work on the buildings that are being built in their community. But we are a CM. We generally operate as a CM at risk, if you're familiar with that. Mm-hmm. Once the district approves the lowest bid contracts, our recommendations, then the contracts become Nicholas's, and we are the construction manager that runs the project throughout beginning to end.
Okay. I guess you kind of touch on local trades. I think that's really interesting. It's important, as long as we're building this building, if we're going to do it, we should try to pull from the different contractors that are nearby. Is there any percentage that Westmont is talking about, thinking about, considering for tradesmen to be in the area, local resident, incorporated in Westmont?
You can't put parameters on that because of the way Illinois school bids is something that has to be an open bid process. We obviously try and recruit, and like I said, we did in Joliet, but 2 different contractors, and we try to attract local contractors that are interested. We also try to subcontractors, which I mentioned, we have probably anywhere from 9 to 13 different prime contractors that would and can obviously reach out to local contractors to subcontractors do work like landscaping or some of the other things that are out there. So, but we can't get, there's no planners, there's no photos for MDE, WDE, and something else. And it's going to be in the school that's an open public bid process.
Okay. So it's really mandatory by the Illinois schools. You can't put that requirement on the actual project.
No.
Okay. Second, we talked, I think in the slide deck, there was mention of upgrading the high school pool natatoriums. Natatoriums are notorious for really high energy costs, even during operation. We have a great facility for the natatorium. I don't know, I'm just kind of curious, has that been reviewed, trying to use synergize with that natatorium for the uses that we need?
Here's what happened with the pool situation. We gathered information from the community, and the consensus that was the least renovation to do. In fact, it was not recommended. So the idea is, under our current plan, the consult of the community, to close our current pool, so not maintain it. because it would need a complete rebuild, estimated between $8 and $10 million. The community said they did not. Once again, when I say the community, the consensus of the community said, do not put your expenditures into that bucket, or it would have been reflected in our referendum ask. Can we discuss within auditorium opportunities? Absolutely. Currently, we run swim classes. I don't know how feasible that would be to have the swim class held at an auditorium. To be honest with you, we don't have a swim team. This was a decision that was made by a consensus of the community not to maintain our pool or to rebuild it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm just trying to understand. So you need 75 million, right? The money is not going to be raised through tax dollars and you show up with 75 million cash. Is that fair to say, right?
I'm sorry.
You're not going to pay for the school in cash. You're going to mortgage it. You're going to sell municipal bonds.
The referendum is a 30-year.
30-year bond.
Okay. 75 million? You can piece it out each 3 years. So you can issue the bond within 3 years. That could be all at once. It could be staggered each year. By law, it has to be within 3 years.
Okay. So some of the points that were being made earlier were pertaining to the sense of urgency. We got to do this now and that sort of thing. We're going to lose to inflation, that sort of thing. Well, if we issue municipal bonds, it's going to be roughly 5%. 4% is a U.S. savings bond. Municipal bonds are higher because there's less confidence in the municipality. So we're talking about 5% interest against 75 million. Every 20 million, simple math, is $1 million. So that's like four, am I right, 4.5 million, or am I a little high? 3.75, I think. Mm-hmm. Okay. So 3.75 million per year paid for by the tax dollars lost to interest, you know? So we're going to lose to inflation, fine. Wages go up with inflation. We're also going to lose to interest the minute we buy a new school, if that's the route we go. Now, these aren't my core issues. I'll reveal my bias here. Everyone has a bias. You do, I do. Everyone here leans one way or the other. I'm leaning toward no, and I feel like to the you spoke your point. A lot of poor people in the community. They paid their dues probably. Some of them were maybe lifelongers. They've lived here a long time and built what the community is. And you're asking them to possibly build a school that's in much better shape than their own houses. You know, I've seen my own. I'm sure there's going to be a purpose somewhere. I didn't see it. I saw a lot of new capital, which was fine. No problem funding a school. To me, it's a question of if we're going to the scenario that every home buyer makes. You spend money on a new construction home, $5,000 a month. That's about a fake number. Then you spend $3,000 a month in a little bit of maintenance. And from what I can see, I mean, there's two fillings in here, but to me, it looks like you got a number of years left out of it. And I guess, so, I'm going to be a little clear. I don't mean this to be offensive, but you're selling your point of view, and that's fine. Okay. You go to a new car dealership, you're going to hear why the new car is exactly what you need. You're going to hear how your old car has an exaggerated amount of repairs that need to be done. I'm not saying you're exaggerating. I'm saying that's the common approach. Okay. So,
well, no, I'm not. The conclusion that we heard from a consensus of the community was to continue to invest money through renovation that's much needed. And my position and my bias is to giving the taxpayers the absolute best value. But it's not my opinion. We did our best to solicit a consensus of the community, and they leaned towards, instead of spending tens of millions of dollars in renovation, to build one new building. That was the consensus of the community. And I happen to believe that to be the right decision, and so did the board. It doesn't mean that we couldn't go in the other direction. It was just that was not what we heard from the majority of the community. And quite frankly, we don't think that's the fiscally sound thing to do with taxpayers' hard-earned money.
Okay. Okay.
where they said, hold on. What else can you do? Okay, we'll wrap up a pipe. I'm not a plumber or what have you. Put a wall around that pipe. They've done that. I think we have been there, and we've said this a lot, kicking the can down the road. And you in your very words, you said, get a few more years.
Oh, I think you could get 10 or 20. That's what I think.
Okay.
Were you
and that's just like that old car.
Were you
I
listening
think
to the
that's
teacher for
yeah.
the ceiling caving?
And so
I understand.
I know you're saying that you believe that, but that's even if we meet in the middle, you get another 10 years. What are we doing in setting up those kids in 10 years? We don't. We don't have 10 years. Okay. But what I believe, and I know, I don't want to set any other kid. My children won't see this elementary school. And we've gained a lot from what we've had. But that's not responsible. I don't want to set any kid up for the future to actually get less than my kids got out of Manning. They're sitting in halls, they're getting sick. I'm going to push that out for another 10 years. I don't think that's good. So this is why we are here, and it was that sense of, at one point in the very beginning, hey, do we have another 2 years? Do we have another 3? This state takes us out. Someone in previous asked, when do you hope or project that people will walk into this new building? It's 2 years from now. So take whatever point that you're going to start, push it out even more. And so I think we've been there, but I think it's just a point that we can't stay and push it down further.
Okay. So I don't want to take up much more time because I see there's other people, but this is probably my personal main point. I wanted to address the more universal points. Money's pretty universal. So obviously we all care for the kids, and that's kind of my main point that I'm about to bring up. I could ask any of these gentlemen, I'll answer for them. They have top-notch construction workers. Right? Let's say yes, top-notch. When I went to the Westmont High School here, I had 3 shop classes available to me: metals and welding, wood shop, and auto. I took all 3. I initially wanted to go to college. For various reasons, I started doing poorly in school. I had those skills to fall back on. I would have been blind without taking those classes here in-house down the hall. I was in no way wanting to make a commitment through my senior year to go to the trade school at AV. Okay? Down the hall gave me that opportunity. I don't think we're sending, this is my main point. Not everyone's going to agree, but I hope some people hear this. That rescued me from being absolutely clueless out on the job world. For the record, I went to college later. I had various jobs. I got only a 2-year degree, but I went back. I got nothing wrong with college. But you're really disenfranchising the students. You're not giving them the best school when you don't have a shop class. I'll bet every one of those workers that these guys had probably had access to a shop class. And to be clear, for me, and probably others who give it some thought, not everyone, it's hard to gain back my trust when you had 3 working shop classes and a teacher on staff and you cut the program. You cut the program while it was there. So to hear any promises, and this is just, maybe you'll keep your promise if you make one, but to hear any promises of shop classes being opened up, my question is, why did you close them in the first place? And why can I trust you going forward?
Okay, that's a question I want to answer. First of all,
thank you.
Okay, so the question was, why did we close the shop classes? Those shop classes were closed 5 years before I became principal. So that was not a decision that I made. I'm not questioning that decision. I'm just stating facts here. So why did I or anybody who's currently running this district close the shop classes? We didn't. We didn't make that decision. And to reinstate them would be extremely expensive to do. The other point I will make is you can make a personal decision, but the Technology Center DuPage, starting in junior year, provides students with the opportunity to get incredible instruction in the construction trades and in a variety of other trades. We highly value that relationship. They provide services and facilities that we could never replicate here. If you've been to the Technology Center DuPage, it's an amazing place that offers a wide range of trade experiences that students can start taking advantage of when they're juniors. They can spend half their day there in junior year. They can spend half their day there in senior year and get an incredible experience that we could never replicate here. And so we do value the trades. We do value the trades instruction. Our students have access to it. So that's one option. But the other thing I want to say is the decision to cut those shop classes was made approximately 17 years ago, years prior to my becoming the principal. To reinstate them at this time, we'd first of all, find a shop teacher in 2024, rebuild the facilities. That is a very expensive proposition, and we weigh that against the opportunity that students who are truly interested in the trades can get a magnificent experience for up to 6 classes in their junior and senior year.
If I can also speak to this just a touch. So, and I speak to this as a tradesperson. Okay, I went to college at DuPage. I have my culinary degree. I was a pastry chef. That is absolutely a trade. My father was a union millwright, and that is how we came up. I am a huge supporter of the trades, a massive supporter of the trades. And I did happen to go to Hinsdale South, where I did have the ability to take an auto shop class and a wood shop class from a much larger school, which speaks to the ability that we have to deliver these types of classes from an excellent level. Yes, TCD is 100% able to do that much better for our kids. Not having access within this building is not having access. It's not the same thing. And as far as the trust, the trust piece of it, I do want to say it very clearly, and I've said it at lots of board meetings. I am a huge proponent for a future high school, after high school path that is not necessarily four-year college. Didn't work for me, didn't work for lots of people in this room. And we are challenging and regularly challenging, the administration challenges itself to focus not just on a post-secondary education that looks like a four-year degree. And so that is very important, not just to the board, but to the administration from a trust piece. And we continue to drive to it. So I can't say that responsibly it makes sense for us to spend the money to bring a class here or that it's even possible. I can say that TCD delivers something that we're not capable of doing, and that we are deeply committed as a district and as an administration to working on the pathways for students who are not necessarily going to a four-year or even a two-year degree as tradespeople.
What we're doing at this fine institution, what would they pay for at high school? You say we didn't do it. What are they getting now as junior and senior? Oh, I'm sorry. Speak to the finance part of that again, and I thank Leah from that because she gives me that perspective that I didn't have. But what are we giving our kids? Just think of it financially, and what are we advocating for them? And to your point, if we didn't offer this while they're in high school, they're getting this education, and you can correct me, Anthony, if I'm wrong. They're getting this now as juniors and seniors, as opposed to waiting when they graduate and pay for it after high school. Talk about looking for our kids.
TCD, right?
Yes, and not just one class. They have, they have access to much more than, frankly, we can offer. Say we did have a wood class. They don't have the opportunity to do another trade.
Yeah,
which they
sorry,
can
by the way. I came back to the mic. I didn't realize what I said was going to be reshaped somewhat. I just wanted to offer some clarification. I did address the idea that, yes, you can go and devote half your day. That's a heavy commitment that a lot of students aren't ready to do. But if they gain the skills by lining up auto shop right after science class and then staying within the same building, there's value in that. And that's clearly what I'm addressing. It's kind of a straw man to say,
It's not a straw man. Please don't say that. And you said you wouldn't trust us because of a decision that was made 5 years before I became principal. But I'll also say, I know the lay of the land. The going rate, and I am not exaggerating, a local school district to get an auto teacher just paid the person $138,000 a year. Because
Okay.
Okay?
A lot of people here make six figures already. I wasn't going to bring it up, but they do.
Not that much.
Yes, they do.
Okay, sir, what we're trying to address is you have to make decisions that are reasonable financially. Those decisions were made prior to our being here. We didn't cut those programs, and to reinstate them at this time when we have the TC it's not a perfect option. I agree with you saying, but it's not the viable option. Could you please allow others to speak?
I will, but I noticed that you cut off people who've disagreed with you. I came back because things were being said in response to my question and misrepresent. And then you bring up other issues that I feel this is my last statement. As long as we don't throw anything back at me and force me to give my legitimate answers. Basically, you mentioned the cost. Okay, how much are you spending on the college-bound students? I mean, like all of it. You're spending nothing on the blue-collar students.
That's not true.
Locally at this particular location.
The TCD tuition is about $5,000.
TCD is not within the school. I understand TCD. It has
It's within
value.
our school experience. It is
Okay.
within our school
So
experience.
all I'm saying
And we're
there
very
is-
proud of those students.
In a nutshell, I'll make up a number because I don't know the real number. I tried to look it up the other day. Let's say there's 30% of people, and maybe 50, maybe 20 that go into blue collar. You're cutting out those 30%, 20%, 50, whatever that number is. If anyone knows it, please tell me. I know it's a big number though, and we're cutting out and ignoring those students. I wouldn't want to send my kid to that kind of a school, with respect. Thank you.
I just think just for our community, I think there are many things. There are always I speak to the whataboutisms. I think we do an extraordinary job for our kids and opportunities. I'm a physician. I want AP chemistry. Can we afford that right now? No. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna send my kid to a school that doesn't offer every science course. I don't think that's reasonable. So I think there's a lot of things we can get better at. We challenge ourselves all the time. Like how can we improve? How can we address every student? These administrators in these schools advocate for these kids and what they need and how we can provide. And so yes, we don't have all the answers now, but I don't know. I see the excitement in every teacher and administrator here, and I know they're trying their hardest. They're not, trying to leave a student, have them sitting out and waiting. They're doing their best. So, sorry. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Balderman, for what I think is a very honest and transparent presentation today. Thank you for the perspective from a teacher in the actual school that we are talking about replacing. That was horrifying to hear. And I have a question. I wanted to make this interactive, take a page out of Stephen Fleck's book, but I think he ran away. So my first question, and please raise your hands, are you proud to live in District 201? Raise your hand if you're proud to live here. Down, which is concerning, but to each their own. My question, sir, actually is more of a reflection that I think everyone should ask themselves tonight before they go to sleep, which is, what is the price you are willing to pay to ensure the health and safety of the children in this district?
Okay.
To the teachers and the leaders of the teachers we represent them. Do what you guys do every day and stop those conditions. I think that sometimes as we think this, I just want to be the first time to say thank you. And for everything to suggest, to even one that any teacher was suggested by someone's question, to me is preposterous. Some of these teachers live in the district and will be affected by the tax in the first place. And what, they should give up even more? Think about the sacrifices that these teachers make day in and day out, and to suggest they take less to help this move along. I think the good for a while maybe was we're not about And they cut for so many years if you would have cut the island. Laws that have been critical for the consumers. Maybe the the suggested teachers should take last year. And as soon as we can get the families, so we can get to the result we need. This is really it. Because the need is now.
This district on that subject in the past.
However, it is not what we need to be talking about. I don't understand the relevancy of this conversation. The conversation is about what the school or district is, our parents, and the people that and administer and supervise those teachers. And what we need to do, not just follow every time. How to keep it? How long can we continue to the people is empty. So sometimes we can't think about the immediate impact that's not in front of our face, which is the cost impact. What is the long-term impact? Was I district? I certainly am not. How about all these things with the TV district?
Impact is not passing this.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Mary. I'm a 30-year resident of Westmont. I'm curious, how old is Miller School? I live right down the street from it. And over the years, I've watched a lot of renovations done to it. I know we're talking about Manning, and I have friends that work at Manning. I understand that. But why is Miller, how old is that school?
It's approximately 65 years old.
So
I'm within a couple of years there. I think it was 56 or 57.
it looks like
It's 63.
63. 63 years old or built in 1963?
No,
It's 63 years old.
Okay. What would be I've seen a lot of renovations going on there, new windows, moving, the offices, library. Have you looked at what would be to renovate that school? Did you look into that?
Yes.
And maybe build a smaller school and have a less like tax increase to the taxpayers? Because you've moved K1 there now. So it doesn't need the renovations that Manning does, okay? And you could probably build a smaller new school and have less tax implications on the taxpayers. Did anybody look at that? I'm just curious. I know the consensus is to build a new school.
Yeah.
But Miller looks like a pretty good school to me, and I've watched it over the years.
I'm not sure. I'm understanding. Smaller school to house 600.
Right, but build a smaller new school and renovate Miller. Keep K through 1 at Miller and build a new 2 through 5. Would that be more cost effective? Did anybody look at that option? Other than the consensus is to build a big new school.
So there's a couple of things in that.
Okay.
One, where would the kids go from Manning? Because that would be our location.
No.
Okay. So if we were to retain Manning.
Right.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying retain Manning. retain
saying
Miller.
retain Miller
And build a smaller new school on a property where people at Manning could stay, so you wouldn't have to displace anybody.
Okay. A smaller school on the Manning property or the Miller property?
Smaller new school on any on a different property.
Okay.
You wouldn't need as
Heard.
much room.
Manning is our biggest asset. I will be very clear on that.
Okay.
The Manning location is our biggest asset, and selling it in order to find or buy another location is a part of that thing. So the reality of selling Manning and finding another location that is big enough to put Manning, even just Manning, a 400-person school on, the cost is very similar. There are economies of scale in all of this with getting the kids into one school, which also affect our operating costs every single year. We simply need more teachers when we have more buildings. And there are some pieces here of, we've got retirements coming up that we may not replace, like those kind of things that are economies of scale of having one building. Then there's also the regular operating costs of just operating a building that is 63 years old. It is more expensive to operate. So it would put us in not as strong of a financial position long term. In fact, it would potentially hurt our financial position long term. So have we looked at fixing just Manning? We have. That is.
No, I'm not asking about fixing Manning. I'm asking about fixing Miller.
Have we looked at
how much would that be?
Fixing our current buildings as they are, renovating them, period. Yes, we have. The payback for that is about a 20-year. It's fixing something that won't be more efficient. We won't get more of those economies of scale. We won't be able to operate as a bit of a leaner district long term. So yes, we did look into that option. There are, and I do also want to call out that for years, I will bring up the four-letter word of when GLCs came up. We asked the community then also what was the preference. We asked the community, we asked the school community, we asked the teachers, we asked the administrators, what is the preference, what is the ideal? And far and away, 95% said one building. All of our kids in one building. There's a lot of economies of scale, and our staff would tell you a lot, and will tell you, and has told the board a lot. Just the change to GLCs, allowing our grade level center, which is what we currently have now. So kindergarten and first grade are at Miller, which means that the entire kindergarten and first grade teaching staff is together in the same building. So prior to that, Miller had 1 or 2 classes per grade, K through 5, whereas Manning had 3 or 4. And those teams that work together were physically separated and unable to come together. So the grade level center change allowed our grade level teams to collaborate in a way that they've never collaborated before. And it's a big chunk of some of the wins that we've seen at Manning. And our team has, and will continue to, I am sure, come and tell us how beneficial that change has been. So yes, we've looked at it feels like we've looked at everything. And this is the best, most responsible, long-term, 50, 40, 50-year solution that speaks to operating more efficiently and more sustainably for the long term.
To answer your question, $15.9 million to renovate Miller, $25.6 to renovate Manning. So the district did look into renovation of both Miller and Manning. The question, to answer your question, is $15.9 million to renovate Miller alone, 25.6 Manning.
Well, you were talking about 30 million, so that's 40.
26.9. We came up with a total of about $40 million to renovate Miller and Manning. Yes.
Combined.
Sorry, one more thing. I sat down and I thought of something that was really important. So going back, I'm a building engineer. You're all probably very hot because of the air conditioning, right? But
We all need to keep in mind that over the last 63 years, buildings have evolved how we design them and how they're built. So nowadays, they're much more efficient, they're much more comfortable. And Manning, I don't have any kids that are in school right now, but they may be. Manning has no air conditioning, really. There's window units. And they really have, is that right? Okay. So there's no outside air really that comes to them. And there's significant studies on the benefits of outside air to children and learning. There's vast studies. If you know, they're out there. Let me know if you really need one, or maybe somebody can give one. But really important. And I just think it's as much of it as unfortunate that we're giving up, because I came in here on the fence. I feel like I'm teetering a little bit. But that's one of the biggest metrics that I'm seeing, and so important to this and doing a renovation, because it's the building technologies, it's keeping this for the next 50, 100 years, whatever we may build this for, and it's the outside air and the health of all the kids going into it. So
those energy efficiencies the gentleman spoke of are in part reflected in the annual savings that we would realize. It's factored in into part of that. Please.
Hi, my name is Norma Martinez. I'm a resident here, and I have 2 students at CUSD 201. So I'm all for this, but how do we get the votes of the residents that send their kids off to private schools because our sports in high school isn't the best program? How do we get those votes? Because there's a lot of friends of my kids that I know go to private schools are going to be sent off to private schools because our sports department isn't the best out there.
You know, a couple of things. Sometimes people who don't send their kids to public schools still see the value in supporting the public school district as a part of a community member, and also the value to their own property values. When you say the sports programs, the much maligned sports programs, some of our programs are actually fairly successful. Yeah. Some are not. Yeah, I'd like to, exactly, but here's the other thing I'd like to say. At some of the larger schools, students pay a price. So when you have 125 students literally trying out for a baseball team at some of the larger high schools, and students who love baseball are not allowed to play, you field a more competitive team, but there are, you know, almost 100 students that don't even get the opportunity to play. So it's kind of a trade-off. If you come here, you have the opportunity to be a part of a sports team. So not sitting in the bleachers watching your friends perhaps on a more successful sports team. There's a trade-off there. So you're right, but that's what I would say. Yeah. Some private school parents would say it's worth investing in my community, and we know parents like that. And then as far as the sports program goes, you can't just look at the wins and losses. You have to look at the opportunities the kids have when they come to the school, and they're pretty extraordinary. It's something to factor in.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that there is a lot of parents out there that won't support the vote because they will be sending their kids to private schools because they feel that academically we're amazing, but they feel that their kids could have a better opportunity at excelling with sports going somewhere else.
I think, I know, it's looking into the future, and I think we have to keep that up. I think one problem that we may have with doing this passes, the news is going to be out there about our junior high and our elementary schools. I think a nice problem, some may not see it as nice, is that some of those private school families are going to say, wow, look at the education they're getting. Yeah. And we may, get a few 10s, 20 more. I think that's what we're looking towards. And as far as the sports, I think Jack is right, looking at the opportunities. I wasn't trying to brag, but I was my kids were at a soccer game. And we played with many of these kids at Montini, who they played with, they were in 4th and 5th grade. We were playing, didn't win that game, but they asked, your daughters are playing? And I was like, yeah, where's your daughter? Just asking. Like, I don't see them. I don't see them. I want to see them because I want to hug them. They were sitting on the bench. And they were just like, I was like, I hope they get to play because they all loved playing with each other before. They weren't put in the game at all. And I was just saying, just because I was happy, I was like, I love that they're here because they're out there on the pitch. They actually get to play, and they were upset because their kids just didn't get to play at all. And they were just like, they don't get to play. Now my kid doesn't want to play anymore. And now, so you have someone, neither one of these kids are going to play professional soccer. But my kid has that opportunity to learn and to exercise her joy of soccer and get an amazing education and get in the school she wants to go to. And then people look at that. I think that's where we're getting towards. We're, we're succeeding here. And we have a school district that looks like it. You're going to get more.
Yep.
Into.
We just got to get those votes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Interesting as well. I mean, the fact of the matter is, basically, all of them give you own taxes. Take a look around the communities around us. You see the difference.
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. Thank you.
Sorry?
No, good question. Thank you.
Again, I have a pretty different question. I'll just start with 2 sentences on this. I think all of us here want to help the kids. Some of us thinks it costs $75 million. Some of us thinks it costs a lot less. So, to be fair, I guess my question really was when you were talking about land and location, just kept coming to my mind, and I don't know why wouldn't you consider the same Manning footprint with a wing stretching out to Cass. You could buy out either business on either side of that parking lot and then stretch a wing out to Cass, and you just stay in the same footprint. And I say that because Manning is pretty centrally located in Westmont for everybody. I'm not for the rebuild, but if we're going to do it, I just thought I'd ask.
One part of it, I think, heavily weighs on us is the displacement. I think that's one thing we have to answer. Displacement of children, that's just one part of it. It's a question that I think many people have asked, though.
It's probably possible to do that, but it's the land acquisition and what's the true value of the property. I think that property has more value to the community than it would as a school in terms of taxable property or building restaurants or businesses along the street there. I think would be a better option for the community.
Yes, it is a TIF district. Yes. Okay, look at y'all. We're going on 2+ hours. You're still here. That's a commitment.
I just wanted to say, parents going to be okay, but having that comment here. That's a consideration. Land for there, not much, but I guess I would prefer. Yeah.
To that point, that's why we want a community committee, because every single site that we potentially look at, every single site that we have looked at, has significant pros and significant cons. And our board has never been interested in making those decisions for the community without the community input. So having a team of community folks who are in on that piece of it and can help us make that decision, we don't ever want to be. It's not clear. There's no very clear. Absolutely, this is the course, because everything has pros and cons, and getting that community input for how much of a con is that and how much of a different pro is that space is incredibly important to us. Yeah. So I can't answer that today. It is something that has come up as a potential con for that location. How much that should be weighed, I can't say, and I wouldn't say without hearing from folks on a community committee.
Okay. If you're interested in signing up, we have a methodology to do that. And Shannon, could you help us a little bit with that? So here's Shannon Cosine, our amazing administrative assistant.
I'll put it it's a QR code, if you can scan it, or if you can sign up on the sheet out there. If you do sign up on the sheet, please write legibly so we can read it and get in touch with you. And then we'll be talking to the board about when our first meeting will be.
So where is that again?
It's on the table and it's taped to the doors out here and the wall.
Table and tape to the doors. And if for some reason you can't access it, then you can call us and call Shannon or myself at the district office. Thank you again for all of you for investing your evening with us. It's much appreciated, and have a great rest of the evening.
Jeremy?